Okay, and since COVID, you've now been working on um, the sort of reverse osmosis type work.
Yes,
I'd
the
be
water
curious.
purification.
Yeah, I'd be curious to maybe zoom in on what is reverse osmosis. How does it work, and how did you like get into it, and what is your business there involve?
Well, the RO side of it, that we call it RO because it's basically just you take your RO system you have underneath your sink for drinking water, right? And you just times it by 100. That's how much bigger these systems are. They're self-sustained, so it has its own generator, has its own fuel source, has the membranes inside the trailer. It has its own filtration system. So what we do is we run lines from the swimming pool to the trailer, and we run it through the trailer and remove any impurities such as total dissolved solids, cyanuric acid, phosphates, salts, bacteria, yeah, hardness, viruses, everything that we can remove without having to drain the pool. Now, you can adjust other balances of the pool, such as your chlorine. If it's too high, you don't put any chlorine in. If it's too low, you add a shock or add extra chlorine. pH, alkalinity, that stuff can be removed without draining the pool. Granted, we can remove some phosphates, but phosphates can be removed with a product. But if we're going to go through the system and remove the solids and the hardness, and that's what we're really attacking here, is because we have really high calcium hardness in the water that's here in Arizona.
And how does this compare to draining? I figure this would be the alternative that you're doing is draining and refilling the pool. What are the pros and cons, and when might one consider reverse osmosis over draining and draining over reverse osmosis?
A great question there. So, a couple things. One, if you have a pool that has a bad finish and you can't afford to remodel the interior of the pool, this is the best way to go because every time you drain the pool, you're susceptible to being exposed to the environment, causing cracking, popping, chipping of the pool. Um, and in wetter areas, not that we have that problem here in Arizona, the pool can come out of the ground. And that's more like in Texas or Florida area where you don't want the pool to come out. So the only way to purify it or to get your clear water is to do the purification process. So and then you're also conserving up to 80% of the water. So some areas have high water costs and you if you're conscious about what your water bill is going to be, and I get it, some people are like, oh, my bill's only going to be $50 or it's only going to be $100. I'm like, yeah, but then you put that into aspect of, hey, I got to drain my pool. My pool is going to be down. It could crack. It could pop. So is saving a couple $100 worth it to drain your pool? Maybe, but um, I want to conserve the integrity of the shell of the pool.
Okay, so a few of the things that reverse osmosis and the service you provide to Aquamosis um, benefits the benefits it provides over normal draining is it prevents the risk of cracking and popping and also saves people on their water bill.
Yes, exactly. It does in a way. I've had people say that, their water or the cost effectiveness was maybe 100, $200 more than doing a drain and fill.
I see. And then what is someone who's just learning about the business? What are the instances where a customer's pool will be worth being what would be traditionally be drained, but for you doing the RO process, what are the sort of instances where you'll do that for a customer?
If they need to do a chlorine bath, if they got staining in their pool and they're trying to clear that up, if the pool is super green, we cannot run it through the system because it'll clog up all the filtration system in there. So our job is to clear the swimming pool before we do the process. So if you have a green pool and we can clear it up and have it ready for us to run it through the process, we can do that. But if it's like a swamp, you might as well just drain the pool. So there are instances where you will need to drain the swimming pool.
Okay. Okay. And what are these instances in terms of like you go to a customer's pool or one of your techs is servicing their pool? Um, they report back to you or they give the customer the sense that it should be drained. What are the different cases where you do need to drain a pool or you need to do RO on it?
So what we'll do is we'll look at what the stabilizer level is, what the total dissolve levels are, what the calcium, all these levels are. Um, Locations that have well water, we have to test for silica, which is fine sand particles in the water. And if that's too high, there's no way that we can do the RO process. There are other businesses here that will take the chance and do it, but me, for the cost to clean the membranes, um, or replace them from fouling from having something like the silica being too high, I don't take that chance. I just tell people, even if the pool's crystal clear and their total dissolved solids are high, I'm like, you're just going to have to drain the pool. And then you have to have water hauled in if you're on a well. And I always tell everybody, we need to test it at least 3 to 4 months after you have it put in or refresh with the water that you haul in. Because then we want to see what the readings were then from the water that was hauled in. But we just have really bad water here in Arizona.